So today I'm going to clean out Fritz's external pump. It's a Hydor 150, which means it can support a tank up to 150 litres, and it's mains powered. It's very compact and it has two tubes, one to feed the water in and one to feed the filtered water out. So let's get started. So I make sure that the valves are off and I take the tubes off. Now this can be quite tricky because they can get a bit stiff over time. Then I unclip the sides and the front and the rear, and I take the main filter out of the housing. Now this can be tricky because it creates a vacuum and sometimes you need a pair of hands to help you. So make sure all the water's drained. Now I'm lucky I have a utility room, so I'm able to make this as messy as I like. And I just make sure that I've got access to clean cold water and I don't use any detergents. And at this point I'm just washing out the sponges. I have a sponge, special sponge, the grey one, which filters out nitrites. It's a special one. And then I have a carbon based sponge there, which gives it its overall clean, if you like, and prevents cloudiness. So again, I use cold water, no detergent, and I choose to use tap safe. Put a couple of drops in and I just put my sponges in there to soak whilst I'm cleaning the other parts. So I take out the second tray. There are two trays to this, and the second tray holds ceramics, and it's at this point when I'm usually retching because, honest to goodness, I can't believe there's that much gunk that comes out of one axolotl. So just make sure I check the ceramics to make sure they're intact, and I throw away any broken ones and I will replace them out of the stock that I've got already in the cupboard. So give this a good clean and make sure that it's fairly slime free. Give it another good scrub, and then again I will use tap safe on this to make sure that I get rid of any chlorinated water. Just a few drops, and then I give it a good rinse out again with the sponge. So I do this whole process about once every 4 months, depending on how clean and well maintained Fritz's tank has been. Usually I can get away with once every 4 months. So now I move on to the main filter, and again this is very slimy. I open the valves, give it a good rinse out, use the sponge on it, and then I go on to the moving parts. There are two parts to the turbine. The turbine helps move the water through the filtration system. It's made of ceramic and it's magnetic and it's quite delicate, so when cleaning it you need to handle it carefully so that you don't break it, and then just give it a good rinse before moving on to actually cleaning the housing itself. Now I finish off with a small bottle brush, which is really handy, and it gets into those sort of nooks and crannies there, cleans that out, and then I give it a rinse before putting the turbine back in place. There's no wrong way of doing this. It's really quite hard to do it in the wrong way, but you just need to make sure that it is secured tight. Give it one last clean and then I'll move on to the actual tubing system. Again, using the brush, clean the basket, and I take the tubes apart. Now they get really gunky, so they need a good clean. Now what I use is a cat toy. It's a feather on the end of a flexible stick. And what this allows me to do is to get right through the tube, because quite honestly I've never found a bottle brush small enough to fit through the tubing, or all the way through the tubing. So taking the other end I can get into the smaller tubes, and again it's very flexible. It creates kind of a vacuum effect, so it pulls the water through to get rid of the debris, and it's important that you do this because if you don't and debris builds up in these tubes, you lose water pressure through the system. So now I'm just rinsing off the sponges again, and you can see there was lots of dirt still in those sponges. Give them one final rinse with some tap safe, and then I'm ready to put things together. So I line up the trays with the housing. Again, this pump is really simple. It's virtually impossible to put things in the wrong way, and it requires very little instruction, to be honest, because you can see everything like kind of lines up nicely and neatly. You just got to make sure you don't put your ceramics and your sponges in the wrong order. So I give the housing a final rinse to make sure that we've got all the chlorinated water out, and then I fit it in. Be careful at this point because the clips can get in the way, and if you try and force it with the clips in the way, you can break them, and then it's game over. Your pump's broken. So make sure that's secure, and then I turn the valves in the off position before adding the tubes. So again, they're all nice and shiny, so we should get really good water pressure in there. Sponges are in great condition, so we're ready to put this back into the tank. So I start with the inlet pipe and I add the spray bar at the back. Now I've shortened the spray bar because I was losing water pressure over time. I'm hoping today to extend the spray bar once I get my pressure back. So I switch the pump on and the valves on, and I give it a good boost to get the water flowing. Now this pump is incredibly quiet. You really don't know that it's running at all. So I can actually increase my spray bar, which is great. And then we're really done at this point. The whole process took about an hour, and as you can see, there's a happy Fritz just bobbing up there in the corner to say hello.